Hello everybody, my name is Marko Jurišić. I'm working as a full-stack developer for Bearingpoint for the last 2.5 years on a big project for a big railroad company. I'm not allowed to say which one. I can just say it's not Westman. And thanks for staying so long and for having me here, and I hope you will find it interesting. So, my topic today is introduction to Angular animations. Animations, which you all know, allow us to engage with our users, call attention where it's needed. So when some new elements come to the screen, we can nicely fade them in or slide them in, so to call attention where it's needed. And they make our application more fun to use for our users and for us to program, of course. I had some projects where I developed only web services for a few months, and it was boring, painful, etc. And when I finally got to program some user interfaces, I was so happy that I could use some animations and see, look at it jump, etc. So also for us as developers, it's fun to see something moving on the screen. We have several ways how we can introduce animations to our applications. Simple way is using CSS3, but it's good only for simple effects. We use it by adding or removing classes. So for simple fade-ins, fade-outs, and bounces, they're okay. But for more complicated use cases, we have to use something more powerful. Angular animations uses web animations, which allows for fine-grained animation control. So we have much more power how our animations will work out and how will our applications look. Angular animations use web animations in foundation. With AngularJS, they still use the CSS3 animations, I think, and now they're using web animations. They are supported in all modern browsers, and there is a polyfill available for the others. By modern, I mean Firefox and Chrome.
And what is with the old browsers like Safari? I mean the really old browsers like Safari?
Can I use as web animations? Two of them are green, and also the Android browser and Opera, if there are so. Are there any Opera users? Okay.
Does having it installed count?
I have it on my mobile. It has a great ad blocker. And so Angular animations use animation DSL, using the states, transitions, and transformations to achieve our desired effects. And from version 4.2, there are some new features like router animations, animation parameters. We can pass some values to our animations and make them reusable and pack them in their own files. Animation scrubbing, it's something which is not at all possible with CSS3, which means to have a slider and to finally control which frame will be displayed and to play forward, play backward, etc. I have to say most tutorials that I found look like this. But by Angular animations, they have quite a good guide. It's a bit outdated, it's for version 2 or something, but you can get up and running using only this first link, Angular Guide Animations. And for the rest, there is a great blog by Matthias Niemela, or whatever it's pronounced. And he is the core developer on animations since Angular 1 actually, and best source for all things animations related. He is also a great conference speaker, so you can check out some of his talks at YouTube if you have some spare time. This would be a minimal example of what we need to have something animated on our page. The first is to add Angular animations dependencies to our package JSON. I usually forget this and then wonder why I have some errors. So first step, add Angular animations to dependencies, do npm install afterwards. And then we also have to import a browser animations module in our application module, which will use animations. And then we can actually add animations to our components. For animations, we have a few steps or concepts. We have this add animation trigger, which is connected to animation trigger in the component itself, and animation state, which controls in which state is our animated component. So is it displayed, not displayed, is it bouncing, or whatever we use. And in our component, we have a few more lines. So first, we have to import all animation elements that we want to use. Define this in animations array on our component decorator, which what will be our trigger, and then underneath we can define all possible state transitions, animations, etc. What do we need? So in this example, I have my animation trigger. I have only two states. When something is inactive, it has a style of opacity 0, so it should not be displayed. And when it's active, it has opacity of 1. And when we do a transition between inactive and active, we will animate it during 1.5 seconds.
Is a linear animation, or can you specify how much of a function you want? Let's say fast at the beginning, then slow down?
Yes, there are all possible ease in, ease out, ease, which is a combination of ease in and ease out. Also Bezier function, you can define all different properties. There are many examples at this area of Mu block. Yep.
Should it be animation state at the top where it says trigger, animation trigger? Like, how does it all fit together? That's the name of the trigger.
That's the name of the trigger. So animation trigger is bound to this done.
Okay, nice.
And this is the state variable. It has to be a string variable on our component. You can also use a getter, but it has to return a string. If it's Boolean, it won't work. There are some examples which only which make getter to convert between string and booleans, but it's simple just to use a control variable which is a string on our component. And in toggling, we just set our control variable to whichever state we want, and Angular does its magic and animates everything. Any more questions? Somebody said 3 slides, or was it only for sponsors? I have some more. So now I should do a demo. I wanted to do a live coding session and created a new empty CLI project, but it went away and died. Let's see if it's working now. Localhost. Okay, it's a more advanced example. I will show it later. I will just now. I will show it now. Behold. Made with Angular. Thank you. Huh? I knew I would have this reaction. Let's just now make a new component. I first have to find this thing. And it died. No, there it is. So let's create a new component to do our wonderful example. I think I have a console somewhere. Ha, there you are. ng generate component. How should we call this? Live demo. It's alive. ng serve. Now I should have also a new component there, live demo. And it created some files for me, component. So let's check if I have my dependencies right. I tend to forget it. In package.json I have my Angular animations. It's all cool and good. In my application module, I also have my browser animations module. It's also okay. And now, what do we do? No! It's all right. No more live coding. App live demo did not match any elements. Why? Live demo component is there.
Yeah, but the index HTML is specifying the round.
Ah,
So tag it most likely.
ah. Are you sure?
Not sure.
Ah. Okay, let's throw it away. Let's do app component and add our live demo component to my routing. Huh. Should be my third example, but my second live demo component. Live demo component, save. And whoa, it is alive. Okay, let us now do some live coding. Don't pretend you never had this at work. So let's try to do that, which I showed a few seconds ago. So div, just to make divitis happy, and let's make a some content div. Let's say my animation is my anim state, and let's say it works. And let's say another button, just a button which will do something, hopefully. Do something. If it does something, I'm happy. I don't have very many requests, so let's do a click handler and say run animation. Okay, so far so good. I also tend to forget to save my files in Visual Studio because I use IntelliJ or something like that. So if I forget it, please tell me. So I need my anim state in my component, and let's say that it is inactive. Okay, and here we will just activate it. This my anim state is active. Let's now define some animations. So as I already said, we have animations, which is one array. And in this array, we can use some triggers. So we have to import all this stuff from animations. We import things from Angular animations. It already offered it. So I will need it. I will need a trigger. I will also need a animate and what else? Probably a style and a state for now. So let's see if it works. I will have a trigger with the following property. So my animation. And an array of things. We can define our transition directly with inline states, or we can define our states which we will use in the final transitions step. The difference between inline states and predefined states is when you predefine state and your variable stays in this state, then this applied end step of animation stays there. So if you use inline states, then it does some animation, then jumps where it should be at the beginning. I'll show it in an example later. So we have this trigger, and we will define some states. One state with name inactive, and with style, let's say opacity 0. And the same with opacity 1, but we will call it surprisingly active. And now we can define our transitions. Yep, there is a transition. We have a transition between state inactive to active, and we want to do something. Let's just animate it and say 1000. Let's see. Oh, it works. It doesn't work. Okay, skip it. Inactive, active, animate, style, blah. My anim state is inactive. It's okay. And here we have my anim states with my animation handler. What did I do wrong?
I'm not sure, but do you have to apply the class, the initial class name?
Nah, it does it by automagic. Opacity 0. Yep. Automagic is the keyword.
You saved the file.
Ah, maybe. I hope so. Nah, there are no bubbles there, so it's saved. Huh? It's gone. Huh?
Just save the file.
I just saved the file. Yeah. Do something. Wow, it works.
Awesome.
Thank you. So it looks easy, but it's not that easy to set everything up, and sometimes it will not work, and you will at the end see. Today I spent about half an hour, and so at the end I did there an active to inactive, and my component was in active state all along. And you have a question?
Yeah. So add symbol is reserved for the animation.
Sorry?
In HTML, the add symbol in the animation HTML part is reserved for the animation trigger.
Yep.
Add sign.
Yeah, add sign just says this is an animation.
Yeah.
So it's yep. And it has to be the same as this one in the controller. And I also forgot to say, so it will be picked up by the compiler and compiled in the best, most performant JavaScript man had ever seen. So it was a promise from Angular creators. So. Yep.
Can now animations be linked to directives or still not?
Sorry?
Can now animations be bind to directives or still not?
Pooh, I'm not sure. I think so. The directives are just components, so.
For a long time, you could only bind animations to the component, but you couldn't bind the directive. So if you want to have directive that brings in the animation, that's impossible.
But you can have a lot of money.
But not for the directive. If you have a directive, then the whole binding with animation wouldn't work.
I guess because directives by default has no template at all. So
Yep.
what to animate if nothing is there?
How would you get access to the animation object in JavaScript, in the TypeScript?
So if you want to use something simple like fire events on animation start or animation end, we have something like these event handlers. So at my animation start, and we can do something, handle start, let's say, and also my animation end, and we can check these events. And if we need more fine-grained approach, then we can use this new feature, animation builder, which gives us complete control of animations. But it's only available from version 4.2.
Okay, but like in this example, is there any way to grab this animation that I've just created without using
animation table? Because I just defined it. Seems
Mhm.
like there should be a way to grab it. But
I think that this start and end events send a handle to animation. Let's check it. I haven't tried it, but I think I saw something like this, and we will now make a handle start and say yay, animation started, and just output our event, which we got saved. Yes? Rebuilt yet? Okay. Refresh.
you will get the from and to state, I guess.
Probably. Go down. We have multi-monitor setup at home. It's a bit cumbersome. Okay. Yeah, animation started, and we get some element and from state, phase name, etc. So this is animation handle. Seems like it. Any more questions?
Does this work with SVG?
Yes, actually. I made a proof of concept project a few months ago and did some extensive SVG animating, and it was a lot of fun. I encountered some problems like with changing scale. It doesn't scale only the size but also x and epsilon coordinates from whatever reason. And then I had some bubble and it jumped all over the screen and then grew. So then when you do some simple scaling on circles, you have to use translation too, so to keep it in place while it grows. Some tricks. But it works with SVG too. More questions? Okay. Then let's go on with next slide. So I already explained what states are. They are in normal use case string values, which are tied to our class properties. And there are also a few special states like void and star. Void means so nothingness when our elements are created. Then they have void state and they come in some other state. And the star is every state, so we can define animations which are fired by transition between any two states. Using transitions, we can use predefined states, which I showed. So we can define our states up front and use transitions. And in this case, our elements will have the properties after animation has ended. They will keep those properties. And with inline transitions, those properties will return to their initial state. And there are also two special transitions, on enter and on leave, which are aliases for entering from void and destroying this component. Now a few words about Angular 4.2 new features. So we have a possibility to send options or input parameters to our animations, so to parameterize them, to export our animations and use them in some other components, so to reuse animations which we are created. Query and stagger. Query is, according to Matthias, the best thing that happened to animations since the beginning of Angular, which allows us to query for all children of some element and check their animations and fire their animations, etc. And stagger, which allows us to add some delay between animating different elements. SubAnimations using animate child, routing animations. It was also possible in older versions of Angular with small hacks, and also programmatic animations with animation builder. Now a few words about each of them. I wanted to make some nice examples, but got carried away with building animations in my project, so at the end I couldn't prepare it as good as I wanted. But I took some animations, shamelessly stolen them from here of Move blog. And here we can see how we define the options for animations. So we can send as many options as we want and then use them using the already known mustache or double bracket notation in our animations. animation reuse using animation or use animations. So we define some animations, use export, and then using use animation keyword, we can import them in some other components and then reuse them. And so it's a great thing. Query and stagger. When we have some element with children, let's show this actually, it's quite cool. We can then animate children separately. What did I do? I took template. Let's just throw it in our template and see what happens. Copy. And let's also do the component thing. If I do something wrong, please correct me. Animations. Ah, thank you very much. You are good.
I know this problem.
Okay, and let's add another animation trigger. It should be around here somewhere. No, this one animation. So around here. No, query is gone. Let's add query and stagger. If it compiles, ship it. What am I missing here? I need my list, of course. I prepared it so I don't have this wonderful list with items. So I don't have to type all of this. And so let's see what happens. Compiles, perfect. Huh? Something's wrong. It is my last example. You are not allowed to see that. Anscheinend, it seems.
You need to go to /live demo.
Ah, live demo. Thank you. It's not closed. Refresh does refresh of root. Bam. So it's so simple to animate items in our lists. Let's now go back to the code. So what did I do here? I created a simple list with a parent element in which I defined this animation, list animation, with items length as a property. And in a component itself, there is some magic. So at first, each element is translated 100% off screen and then animated during 1 second on screen. And this stagger says give me 200 milliseconds between elements. And that's all. Questions? It's also possible to use to define to define sub-animations using animate child. So in this left case, we have animation child, animation triggered, and then parent wins, unlike in real world, and child animation is not called at all. And in versions newer than 4.2, we can define this query at child, animate child syntax, which will also execute our child animations. There is also possibility to add routing animations using this route animation, prepare route state, and giving the data which tells in which route are we right now, and then define some transition between pages, so we can use some nice slide left, slide right, etc., whatever we want. It works very nicely. There was also a possibility to do something like this in prior versions of Angular. I have that example. I will show it a bit later. And also programmatic animations using Animation Builder. We just include Animation Builder in our constructor and then can use builder build to build animations and then have access to player. And then we can switch between frames backward, forward, and do whatever we want. questions. And now let's do another demo. So I prepared this other demo. You already saw it, so behold, we have username and password, and if we enter wrong username and password, and it says and it is red for a second. Let's show code for that. So it is in my login component, and the elements are already known. I have my wobble animation, and on wobble done I set it back to inactive. And here I just translate this button left and right 2 times, and that's it actually. Now let's do login and see what else do we have. User password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the most secure password. Statistics say that most people in the world use it, so it must be secure. So this is an example of switching routes and animation. So this is first route, this is second route, and I can show you in code how it is implemented in my application module. So each of my components defines this host router transition and animation router transition. And inside I defined this transitions between components. So on enter it translates from left on screen, and on exit it does the opposite. And actually that was it. And in my second I prepared another application. Yesterday there was a question, which is better, React or Angular?
That's good. That's good.
Yep. And so you can see here I use this inline version of animation, so Angular drops back. It doesn't stay in this big state. So. Any questions? That was all for today.